Okay, so several people have asked what happens once you catch a swarm in a trap, and I've done a video like this in the past, but I was going to do one here for spring 2025. So this is a swarm we captured a week or two ago in some of the swarm traps the students had made at Summit School, and it was a really, really large swarm. I took it down off the tree on Friday, and I could tell by the weight of the box that it was a lot of bees. And so I put it out in the bee yard and waited a couple days because I was busy. And today, Sunday afternoon, April 27th, I believe, I decided to go ahead and switch it over. So what you're going to see is a large swarm move from the swarm trap, which is the brown taller box you see there, and I'm moving it over to a 10 frame deep. And that gives them more space. The small swarm traps only hold about 5 or 4 frames, depending on which volume trap we catching them in. And that won't last them long, and especially if it's a large swarm, they're just looking for space. So you'll see when I open this in a few minutes and I start pulling frames out, there's a piece of comb like on that lid there. The bees made that within about 2 days. And then you're going to see these frames that I'm going to pull off. 3 of them, I believe, had large combs at the bottom of the frames that they had already added. So when bees swarm, they are very prone to making wax, and they can make wax very quickly, because if they swarm to like a hole in a tree, for example, or in the side of someone's soffit on their house, they've got to make new comb for them to start to lay eggs in, for the queen to lay eggs in, and also for their honey stores and pollen stores. So they can make wax really quickly, which is amazing. So in less than 2 days, they're already making these combs. And you really don't want this to happen when you're transferring bees from a swarm box to a deep box, because you have to cut that comb off. And what you're going to see me do is look at the comb. Of course, I'm also looking for the queen, but I'm looking at the comb. And the first frame didn't really have it, but I'm looking at the comb at the bottom, and I'm taking that off with my hive tool, cutting it gently, trying not to hurt any bees. And then I'm looking to make sure it's not brood comb. In other words, there's no eggs in it. Because if it's brood comb with eggs in it, I don't want to waste those eggs. So what I would do is cut those pieces of comb off, take an old frame that has no wax foundation on it, that's just an empty frame, and I would take rubber bands and hold that comb in the frames. And it's a huge pain in the neck to do that. It's difficult not to damage the comb. I'm going to have to do that on one other trap that I have in the next couple days that has the same kind of problem. But this one, when I pulled these combs out and inspected them, all it was where they were bringing nectar in and converting it to honey. So I pulled off, I think, 4, maybe 5 total small combs, and it was all honey. So what I do in that case is I just cut those off, shake the bees off of them, and when I get done, I'll put those combs on top of the hive and let the bees rob the nectar out of them, because they'll get that nectar before they'll go get nectar from flowers, because it's so much closer and it's already kind of been in the process of turning it into honey. So it's really sweet nectar. So this frame I have in my hands right now, you can see it's kind of got a weird irregular comb at the bottom of that deep frame. And like I said, I'm scanning right now to make sure that I don't see the queen. Frankly, this hive was so full of bees, I could not find the queen, and I didn't really want to waste a lot of time. I could tell by the way they were acting that they're queen right. Whoops, and you see that comb fell off. You don't want that to happen normally. And so I could not find her, but I felt certain that she's in there. I'll go back in a few more days and see if I can find her, but they just didn't have enough room in there, and they were just climbing all over each other, which is something they do quite regularly, but it makes it difficult to find the queen because they're just bees on top of bees. So you see I'm dropping this frame into the 10 frame box, and then I think I pick that comb up and shake the bees off. And at this point, it's kind of nice. The bees are not very aggressive. They're like pretty much kind of intent. You give them something to do by giving them comb that they've got to, pull the nectar or honey out of. And so that kind of preoccupies them. So that's why I don't even use any smoke. Also, when you use smoke, sometimes they'll hide the queen. In this case, it didn't really matter because it was so hard to see her. I'm going to say there was probably 20,000 plus bees in this swarm trap. It was a pretty good size. you'll see, actually, I don't know that you'll see on the end, but I did cut some of the video off, but I had shook the bees out of the box 4 times before I could get them all out of there. They were just coated all around the inside of the box, even after I pulled the frames over. So again, scanning for the queen real quickly. Impossible almost to find at this time. And then I'm going to cut those combs off the bottom and lay them off to the side. So I hope you enjoy this. If you have any questions, you're welcome to send me a comment. But this is what I do every time we catch a swarm in a swarm box, is transfer them over to a box within a day or two. And generally, you want to do this kind of quick. I have one swarm trap over at Summit School in our bee yard that I have not transferred just because I was busy last week, and the days that I did have time, we had rain, and I've got a few other excuses, but I didn't get it done, and they have built a ton of comb on the bottom of their frames, and I'm going to actually probably have to transfer those to frames with the rubber band method that I mentioned earlier, and I'm going to try to do that tomorrow. If I get a chance, I'll make a video of that, but every now and then, even a good beekeeper screws up. So that's kind of what's happened. But this one that we're looking at right now, I couldn't help it. There are just so many bees, and there's a great example. So you see all those bees just hanging off the bottom of the frame, and they're kind of festooning, which is where they hang off of each other in little clusters. And you can kind of just shake those off or knock them off. And whenever you're doing this, the least amount of stress you can cause the bees, the better it's going to go for you. So I just try to let them kind of drape or drip down onto the new box. I'm still scanning for the queen on this frame. It was likely that she could have been on any of those frames just because they were all pretty much brood frames. But overall, this went really well. I didn't have any trouble. Got everything moved, got all the bees out of there. And I believe I took this video clip will go all the way to the end. It's kind of long. It's about 11.5 minutes. But you'll see that I put all the bees in, put the cover on it, got them going. And then I checked on them several times in the afternoon after this, and they were doing great. They'd already, when they smell their queen and their frames that she's been on in the box, it doesn't really matter whether when they return for flight, they'll return to that new deep, their new home. And one of the things that's kind of a trick that you'll do is, you may have noticed in the video, the swarm trap, the brown box, was in one position, and when I started working, I moved it over to the left, and I put the white deep box, their new home, right in the same space, so that all the bees that were returning from foraging would come to that exact spot. So here's some brand new frames I'm putting in. Those are wax-coated plastic frames. I'm going to put those on either side. With the quantity of bees that are in this colony, I'm sure they'll be drawing those out tomorrow. So I'll look forward to going in and doing an inspection afterwards. And here's some of those combs that I took out from the bottom. Some of them fell down in the bottom of the swarm trap. And those are just coated with bees, which is amazing. But they have a pretty high tolerance for being all over each other. So I'm kind of moving that box over. I'm going to shake these off after I make sure they're not brood, that they are food combs, not brood combs. And you'll see that after I get the bees off of them, I'll just kind of pitch them. And it's so much fun. When I first started beekeeping, the idea of shaking hundreds of bees was kind of foreign to me. But they don't seem to mind it too much, and they just land on top of those frames, and they'll gently or slowly crawl down in and go ahead and, do whatever it was they were doing before I so rudely interrupted them. All right, there's another one that I'm shaking. And again, it's a food frame. I can see liquid in the cells, so it's nectar. And just so you know, when the bees go out and get nectar from flowers and bring it back, they will mix it up. They'll put all different types of nectar in different cells. They don't care. And they will work that nectar down through various methods and reduce the amount of water that's in it to the point that it's about 18.4% water or less. And that's when it becomes honey, and then they cap it. And once they do that, that honey will last pretty much for forever. So that's kind of the process of turning nectar into honey. So those combs that I was shaking, that's all full of nectar. As a matter of fact, some droplets of it landed on top of that box I noticed while I was shaking it, which is fine because the bees will just lick that up, or they don't lick it up, but they suck it up into their proboscis, into their honey stomach, and then they'll take it down and redeposit in cells. Again, I'm giving them work to do, so they don't mind. And when you got that many bees in a box, having something for all of them to do is a really good thing. and it makes my job easier. The whole time I did this work, I didn't get stung a single time. I didn't even have a bee sting me. I only saw 1 or 2 bees that I actually mashed, so I was pretty happy with that. I didn't kill any. The more bees you kill, obviously, the worse it is for the colony, but also when they get squished, they release a pheromone that's, basically an alarm or attack pheromone. So it can cause the other bees to get kind of agitated. So it pays to be fast but gentle. So that's kind of what you see me doing. I make a mistake every now and then, and I'll shake something the wrong way or pinch something, but I'm trying to be really careful and space my frames out. That's what I'm doing right now with my hive tool, and try to get all those in there. This is a 10 frame deep, so I'm filling it up with frames, and that'll give them a lot of space. Also, when I got done with this, I put a queen excluder on it, which is a screen mesh, and then I put a honey super on top of that. And the queen excluder will keep the queen down in the lower box, and she'll only lay down there, and then the bees can move up top and make honey in that top box. So I just added another frame on the end there, and this is the fun part. I'm now going to shake all these bees in, and of course a lot of them get airborne, so it's a little crazy. It's a little unnerving the first time, but you can see just hundreds of bees flying through the air there. And I'll shake them, wait a little bit, and then I'll shake some more. Well, I'm going to sign off, but thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this. Again, got any questions, send them to me. I'll be glad to answer them. Have a great day.